What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. It's episode 1 of 2 this weekend, double upload weekend. Hope you guys are ready to join the ride. We got some things to talk about. I'm going to give you guys my initial thoughts of the Russell Westbrook trade to the Lakers and some MLB stuff, and then I want to talk about a little bit of music stuff. I want to talk about Kanye and the fact that Mans is finally going to drop his damn album. But let's dive into the sports talk right away. Russell Westbrook to the Lakers for Montrezl Harrell, KCP, and Kuzma, and I think it's just Russell Westbrook going back. And I think the Lakers are sending back, maybe a pick. I believe they sent back a pick or something like that. But all right, just my initial thoughts, because we're gonna have Gianni on the podcast tomorrow. My initial thoughts. I'm gonna make this one kind of short and sweet for the most part. Westbrook on the Lakers makes them better, I guess, because Westbrook's a dog, absolutely, but it's just I'm looking at that and everybody's having the same thoughts about it. Spacing issues, how is he going to fit with LeBron and Anthony Davis? I know Anthony Davis likes to be more of a guy who's playing, like, in terms of what my thought process is when I saw that is that they're probably going to have Westbrook, LeBron, and AD out for the start at the start of the game, and then for the most part they're going to run it how their Westbrook was running with the Rockets. Him and Harden wouldn't be on the floor at all times, and it's kind of how Brooklyn's running their offense now, or at least this past season. They had, before they had Harden, it would sometimes be just Kyrie, sometimes it would just be KD, and then when they had Harden, it would be like Harden and KD, and then it would be KD and Kyrie. And I'm not sure how they did the rotations, but that's how they would do it. How, like, maybe have the Westbrook show for the most part when LeBron and AD are sitting, and then you have LeBron and AD doing work, going back out there while Russ sits or something. But I know it's probably gonna be fun seeing how that dynamic works out with Westbrook with LeBron. Quite honestly, for me, and I feel a lot of people feel the same way, they probably should have went after Buddy Hield if they were able to get somebody, because I think they could really use a lot more spacing in that lineup, especially Anthony Davis. I know he had issues with spacing the floor and stuff like that this past year. And hey, the Lakers are going to be something serious if everything goes well. But hey, man, I'm just happy my teams were making moves, and it's fun to see how the offseason is already getting off to a crazy start with Westbrook being traded again. And it's kind of weird to look back on Mans' career. Mans is going to be on 3 teams in 3 years, and there's going to be no short of Hall of Fame teammates. So if Russell Westbrook doesn't win a ring, I find that to be absolutely nuts. It's probably going to be a little bit more nuts than Chris Paul not winning a ring. And again, we can't say anything yet because guys are still playing. I know Chris Paul said he's coming back. Who knows where he's going to end up. Quite honestly, with Westbrook on the Lakers now, I think CP might just end up going back to the Suns. Or maybe I could even see him, going to the Clippers or something. Which I wouldn't rule out, I guess. But I know he's looking for, I believe, a 3-year or a 3 or 4 year deal where north of like $100 million. And I'm not sure. But, I mean, hey. Who knows? Who knows? If he were to go back to the Clippers, or if he were to go to whatever team, I find that really unlikely now. So I see him going to the Suns, or going back to the Suns anyway. Just running back with those guys and see what they can do. But yeah, and I know the Celtics made a few moves that we'll touch upon a little bit more tomorrow. But seeing that we got Josh Richardson and we got Chris Dunn, I see what the Celtics are trying to do, at least for the most part. But we'll discuss that more tomorrow. But I like to see that they're actually having a direction and seeing what they're going to do. It's very intriguing to see how the rest of the offseason will play out. I know the draft was just this past week, I believe this past Thursday. And yeah, a lot of teams have a lot of upside in terms of the Pistons and the Rockets. These young teams that were able to get a pretty good looking draft class. We just got to wait and see how some of these guys do. But yeah, instead of going too far on a tangent, Westbrook to the Lakers, it makes them better, but I just don't know by how much. I mean, they're going to be better than what they were this past season anyway. I mean, getting Westbrook, I guess it adds a brand new dynamic, and I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe LeBron can kind of get into Westbrook's head a little bit and be like, hey, let's see how much of a team player Russ is going to be when he's not the alpha for the most part. Because I think this may be the first time in his career since Kevin Durant, he has like, hey, you are now the number 2. Or at least I want to see how he actually plays now being, again, your number 2 or number 3, you know. But I think if anything, that role can fit him very well, or this whole experiment of Russ on the Lakers could be very bad. But who knows? Just got to wait and see. But yeah, on the topic of trades and whatnot, I know the MLB trade deadline was this past Friday, and yesterday. And I find it crazy, though, how Major League Baseball, it works so much differently in terms of trading players, super quick to trading superstar level players to different situations. I know they're more on the fact of trading a player, and playoff teams are more intrigued about getting even a 1-year rental because there's no salary cap. Sometimes when these guys go for 1-year rentals, or even a player, just out for a playoff push, they do that with no intentions of bringing them back. It's just, hey, we're going for it this year. You had some failed ones like Josh Donaldson, former MVP, going to Cleveland, and then they lose in the first round, or they lose in the in the division series, I should say. And you had some that worked out pretty good. And you had Aroldis Chapman going to Chicago, and Chicago sent, I believe, they're a top prospect now being Gleyber Torres, and Cubs end up winning a World Series. But it's funny how that changes, and they ended up sending another guy from that championship team to New York, Anthony Rizzo, and you had Joey Gallo who got traded. A bunch of big names for the most part that got traded. I know the Red Sox got Kyle Schwarber, the Red Sox got Hansel Robles from Minnesota. I mean, they did. I'm just glad they made moves. I'm glad certain teams. It's good to see certain teams kind of say, hey, we're kind of. We want to push to make the playoffs. We want to push to win a championship. I like when teams make those types of moves, even teams that aren't super big market, because the fact that there's no salary cap, teams can use however much money they want to build whatever team they want for the most part. Because even though there's no salary cap, there is a luxury tax that they kind of acts as a hard cap and whatnot, because teams don't want to be in that luxury tax threshold and pay X amount of millions of dollars to keep a team together. But big markets like LA, like the Dodgers, they really don't care about doing that. Those big markets like New York, they don't care about bringing guys in on super huge contracts. They got no problem paying. They don't have no problem paying people for the most part. And I feel it's detrimental to these smaller market teams. But the thing is, I feel instead of not having a salary cap, but if they have a minimum for the amount a team's salary has to be, it pushes teams to be more competitive and be able to make playoff type moves or championship moves throughout the season. Because there's certain NBA players make more than what an entire MLB team makes at times. I forgot what team it was. It may have been that Oakland Athletics, to my knowledge, and they had a team payroll of like $25 million, and you can probably name even 5 players off the top of your head that would be making double that. Like some of those guys were on Supermax contracts and whatnot, which is absolutely nuts. I feel there should be a minimum for how much a team has to spend on their team to put a good product out on the field. Because being a fan of a team that the ownership doesn't even care about how they do, it's like having cheap ownership that sucks. Why do you own a team then if you're just gonna be cheap about it? You know, that's why I think that's what's something that small market teams can't control in terms of how much money they get as an organization in terms of revenue and all that stuff, because the Boston Red Sox and the Boston Bruins own NESN, their television network, so they can broadcast their games. They don't broadcast on, like you see in the California areas. You see NBC Sports California, they be doing the MLB games, the NBA games that they have for Golden State. And yeah, but you see that the Celtics are on NBC Sports, but the Red Sox are on NESN, and then you have the Patriots that are on CBS, I believe, for the most part. But the fact that those guys, those organizations, those teams own their own television broadcast networks, they can use that money to get players as well, because they can use all their assets to get players and to make their teams better. The Yankees own the Yes Network for New York. They can, I believe them, the Brooklyn Nets, they're pretty much, the Yes Network are owned by the Yankees, and I believe maybe some other teams as well. But for the most part, I know it's the Yankees, and those guys can use that money to get better players. Or that's why they always have so much money, because they're in such a huge market in New York. And it's crazy. I know it sucks for teams that have to give, like, that are selling off a bunch of their star players and a bunch of players that fans adore, like the Javier Baez going to the Mets, which I find that's going to be really interesting. It could be really fun, or it can be really bad, because players getting shipped to a different situation, that can turn a season around, whether it's in basketball, whether it's in baseball, football. It doesn't matter. If a guy gets traded, they can have a huge end of the year and help those guys, propel those guys to a championship, or even just having a better season than what people were expecting. Because people are so quick to judge a player when they come in, and then the guy pops off, and they're like, oh man, it was a great trade at the time, and all that stuff. Nah, people, the big word for this episode today is perception. And perception, that's what people always have. Perception is always changing in terms of players, in terms of how teams are. A team could suck right now and be out of the playoffs right now in the MLB and go on a dominant second half, and those guys will be in the playoffs and even make it all the way to the championship. The 2019 Washington Nationals is a great example. Guys were out of the playoffs, and then the second half of the year just went on a tear and just not cruise, but they fought their way all the way to a championship. And then now they sell off most of their World Series contributors this past trade deadline. And also bringing up the fact again of teams, MLB not having a salary cap, it allows teams like the Dodgers to be able to go out and have God knows how many All-Stars. They have 8 of their 9 slots in the starting lineup are filled with All-Stars and or former MVPs, Cy Youngs. It's nuts. If you guys go on MLB The Show, their first 8 players that you see are Diamond. And Diamond in MLB The Show is 85 overall and above. And obviously, if you go on the actual rosters and stuff, either way, pretty much the Dodgers are stacked. That's a damn fantasy team. Because that's just nuts how much... Like, I get it, they want to win. That's cool. I get that. But it's like, that's just absolutely nuts that teams can just trot out. They can make moves like that. And the Dodgers are such a well-run organization. So everybody got to give them credit. I get that. It's just nuts. But it's funny because really the beauty about baseball, and maybe the beauty about sports is, for the most part, I'll just use baseball as a prime example. You can do all that and still lose. You can make all those acquisitions and all those trades and all those transactions and still lose. Whether it's in the World Series, whether you don't even make it that far, it doesn't matter. Sometimes going for the big transaction or getting the big fish in the trade deadline, it doesn't always help you, because that in baseball, even if the talent isn't there, a team with less talent can beat a better team in baseball for the most part. And in most cases, that has happened in the past. Some teams that look like, oh, they got no shot, they got no business beating this team. That's what's the beauty about baseball, is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good your team is. It doesn't matter you as a ball player. It doesn't matter your size. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter size, shape, color. It don't matter. It don't matter if you're skinny. It doesn't matter if you're super strong. It doesn't matter. If you can play, you can play. Like, baseball's so unpredictable, and that's why I love the game so much. And one of the big reasons is that it doesn't matter how good a team is. Any team can beat any team at any given night, and pretty much any person who puts their mind to it can be a ball player. Because you see so many different characters and so many different kinds of people in the MLB. And some people say that's probably not always the best thing to be known for, because you see a bunch of fat guys in the MLB. Obviously, the generations have changed, because you see a lot more guys in terrific shape, but you still got the Pablo Sandovals of the world, and you still got guys like that walking around damn near 300 pounds, out of shape for the most part. But in the NBA, you have to be you have to be tall for the most part. It's a league of giants. In football, both if you're including soccer or if you including the NFL, those guys are in terrific shape. But in terms of, let's look at the NFL. Those guys are huge. Those guys, whether they're big and really tall, so like those guys who are the offensive linemen and defensive linemen, it's crazy. But you're not going to see a guy like that be out there in the slot trying to catch a wide out pass, playing wide receiver. You don't see guys like that doing that. They have their specific roles and they build them to do that. And then you ain't gonna see a guy built like a wide receiver playing on the line or anything like that. Again, I'm not super familiar with football, so I may have used some really bad terminology there, and I'm probably gonna sound like an idiot. But you guys can really understand what I mean. Is that it doesn't matter what you look like. If you can play, talent and hard work are two very different things, because hard work can beat talent if talent doesn't work hard, and that's a saying that's been going on forever. And even then, like in baseball, it doesn't matter how good your team is, you can still lose. Not even if you blow it, a team can just outplay you. That's how it is. In basketball, it's different. In soccer, for the most part, it's different. I'm using baseball as a prime example, because I've seen teams that should beat other teams lose to said team that they should have beat. And I feel teams don't get as much flack in baseball anyway for losing to a certain team, because people know how the game is, and people know how the game is built, and how the game thrives, how the game flows. So it makes the postseason, the second half, very interesting, to say the least. You know, especially after the trade deadline. But yeah, enough with my little tangent of baseball, because I'm so passionate about this stuff, man. Baseball is so fun to me. I love the sport. It brings me a joy that I feel everybody should have this kind of feeling in terms of something they love so much. For at least in terms, as long as it's ethical for the most part. But I'm not gonna deep dive into too much of it. But everybody should have a love for something that brings them this much joy. Like whether it's a hobby, whether it's a sport you play, whether it's people find joy in school, people find joy in their work, and all that stuff. And I'd love to make this a career, and being able to talk about this stuff, even play, because I love baseball so much, and just being around this stuff it's an addiction, and I think it's a good one, because I just love. Long story short, I love the game so much. It's been with me for forever, and it's done so much for me. I can't even put it all into one monologue or anything like that. At least right now, it's done so much for me that people don't know. It's done so much. Something else that's done a whole lot for me has been music. And speaking on that note, we got to talk about the fact that Kanye is dropping Donda August 6th. But the thing I find crazy is, to my understanding, Kanye's paying $1 million $1 million a day to stay at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta to finish working on his album, with the recording sessions and all that stuff. Imagine if you just had $1 million just to be like, okay, cool. And I know you guys seen what the room looked like. Paying $1 million for that. That's crazy. I'm assuming it's including the studio sessions and all that, being able to have his guys in there. But I just find that nuts. And I know he's hosting another listening event, and I know it's funny because I'm going back to Perception. And the word perception anyway. And with Kanye, people have been saying people haven't even really been able to listen to the album yet. Yeah, you were only really able to listen to every song maybe once, and some songs probably got tweaked a bit. But people were saying, man, Kanye's the GOAT. Kanye is number one. Kanye's the best rapper out there. That's why this dude is number one and all that stuff. And it's funny how people were saying the same thing about J. Cole. The same exact people were saying the same thing about J. Cole. And people are going to say the same thing about Drake when he drops, and then Kendrick Lamar, whenever he has whatever mystery album or whatever he has going on, because I've seen so many reports being like, hey, Kendrick Lamar, he got something cooking. But like when J. Cole dropped the offseason, everybody's like, oh, J. Cole's a dude, J. Cole's that guy, he's number one, he's the best rapper out there. And I know it's funny because if you use let's use the NBA as an example. When the Lakers won the championship back in the bubble, people were saying LeBron number one, LeBron's the best player in the league, LeBron and AD best dynamic duo in the league, these guys can't be stopped, he's the king, acknowledge the king, all that stuff. And then as soon as the start of the regular season, oh, Mickey Mouse ring, these guys didn't deserve nothing, all that stuff, the Lakers is trash, this, down, the third. And people were probably going to say the same thing about the Bucks, at least for the most part. But it's this perception changes with time, and I find that to be hilarious. And it's different for rappers, and it's different for artists and people who make music, and maybe it's just for sports anyway, with the toxic people of the sports community that would do stuff like that. But talking about artists and like guys like Kanye and J. Cole, people will have the changed perception, being like, oh, this guy dropping album of the year, all that stuff. But it's more about, not to say that these guys like J. Cole, whoever dropped the album before them, they suck. Kanye's better than this guy, or Kendrick Lamar is better than J. Cole, or J. Cole's better than Big Sean, Drake, whatever. It's more on the premise of people just go with what's popping. And it's funny because people who say they probably don't like Drake will probably still listen to Certified Lover Boy whenever that comes out. And I've heard a song that was I believe one of the leaks, if that is going to be a part of the album, and I'm like, holy crap, I want this album out yesterday. And Mans has been pushing it back forever. So quite honestly, for me, he said, people were saying that Drake's probably going to drop by the end of the summer. For all we know, this dude's dropping in October just because, just to pull some goofy stuff. But yeah, it gets me excited for the album. It gets me excited for Kanye's album, I should say, and just to see what he's got. Because I know people are like, "Oh man, Kanye's back." This, that, and the other. You got all that God love and stuff. Like, I don't mind when Kanye was wanting to be on his wanting to pray, like have albums and music that was reflecting on praising God. I get that, and I listen to guys who are Christian rappers and guys who just want to spread positivity in their music and in their art form. And like guys like KB I listen to a whole lot, and I love his music, and his music is great. I need him to drop more, please. But also I listen to guys, I like artists who can tell you a story, and I like artists who use their words for power and use their words to express a message, and a positive message for the most part. But be able to tell a story and be able to spread a good message and bring positivity to whoever's listening to it. Whether it's I just like the beat, whether I like what they're saying, I like what the story goes for it, and all that for music anyway. That's what I look for. And everybody looks for something to feel when they're listening to music, whether it's by whoever it's the artist from. Because I like listening to High for Hours by J. Cole, and it's the beat. I feel like that's my favorite J. Cole song ever, and I feel people probably don't give that one enough credit, or not even given enough credit, but I just love it. Like, that probably won't be people's first choice of their favorite J. Cole song. But that's mine. High for Hours, when he dropped it on Martin Luther King Day. And it's cool when you listen to people that people you look up to, and people you really have a huge amount of respect for, and people you love so much. They talk about certain issues, or they bring that stuff up, and they have their opinions on it. They're not just copy and paste. Like, I like guys I like people who have character behind them, like actually showing your true character and showing people the real you and the real person behind whatever persona or whatever. And people who are honest with themselves and being honest with others. But yeah, I listen to J. Cole. J. Cole is definitely my favorite rapper. Big Sean's up there, Drake's up there. Maybe not in the same degree as J. Cole, because I realized, and it's funny, it took my sister to help me realize this, that J. Cole is my favorite rapper. But I really like J. Cole. J. Cole's number one. Drake's up there. Big Sean's definitely up there. I listen to KB. KB is really good. I listen to a lot of people that people probably want to be super familiar with, after that, like Aaron May. I listen to Andy, Minho or Miho. I think it's Minho. But yeah, I really mess with Andy. KB definitely up there. He's one of my favorite artists right now. I rock with ASAP, like ASAP Rocky, ASAP Ferg, but I honestly don't. But I honestly don't listen to them a whole lot. But Rocky, I really mess with. But yeah, people will be like, oh, you know, X and Juice WRLD, Pop Smoke. I like a little bit of his stuff, but I'm not like super big on like drill rap. But it's crazy that a lot of these guys could have been doing so much, and people were saying like the rap game or just the music industry right now is in shambles with a lot of these top artists, you know, dying and all that stuff. And I'm more on the side. It's like I don't like when these guys make X amount of albums after a person's died. I know X had the album. I believe he had Skins, and I believe maybe he had something else. I don't know if they're ever gonna drop maybe another album, or maybe even drop any like X music. But yeah, people were saying like it's in shambles. Not really, because it's crazy to think about like how much money and how many people actually do listen to the song. And if people call it garbage, if that's the case, don't ask for any. Like, I just don't like people asking for more music by them, and it's like, you know, they're passed away. Like, I get it, it's like all a legacy thing. Let their memory live on. Let their family get that money and stuff. Like guys like King Von and all that, so their family gets the money with all the music that gets released. I get that. But sometimes I'm more on the just let them rest and just enjoy the music that they were able to put out. And I know like guys like Pop Smoke's case, I didn't have a whole lot of music under his belt, and I believe maybe just had the one album. I think it was like Meet the Woo, or maybe I think he had another one too, or maybe a mixtape or EP. But yeah, I'm excited for Donda. I'm excited for Certified Lover Boy. I'm excited for what the rest of J. Cole got to do before he scrams. Kendrick, I don't know what the hell he's gonna do. I know people have said that he's dropping an album, God knows when. And who else am I waiting for? I'm waiting for Utopia, Travis Scott. Travis Scott, I really messed with. I didn't bring him up. More old Travis Scott, because the fact that Mans was able to carry or able to stretch the popularity from Astroworld, the album, because I was super excited for Astroworld, and then that was maybe the most overplayed album over the span of when it dropped. It dropped, I believe, in August 2018, and people were still listening to Sicko Mode. People were still listening to whatever though. I know Sicko Mode. I'm sick of Sicko Mode. People say man's gone Sicko Mode. This that, you know. But I'm excited to see what other music is popping out, and I'm excited to be able to enjoy the music and be able to like, again, you feel music. You listen again. I'm going to reiterate. You feel music. You listen to music to feel something. And I can't wait to keep feeling more music. Keep listening to some nice tracks to see what else these guys got in store. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of Westbrook becoming a Laker. Let me know what you guys think of if this was the craziest MLB trade deadline in history, or God knows when, because I don't think there would be remotely this many trades on a normal year. And let me know what you guys think of, like, who you guys' favorite artists are, and let me know what album you're excited for, whether it's an album that's already confirmed to drop, or whoever, like Kendrick's mystery album or whatever. Let me know what you guys think. Alright, but guys, with that being said, I'm out of here. I'll see you the rest of y'all tomorrow when it's me and Gioni. We'll talk about more. We'll talk about Bradley Beal, we'll talk about the Celtics, we'll talk about a little more NBA stuff, and I'll even ask Gioni some questions about some music and stuff like that. But we'll save tomorrow's problems for the tomorrow version of ourselves. So with that being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.